So what we have an opportunity to do with the small learning community that Mary mentioned earlier through the CRP Alliance is to start working with folks on a deeper dive, doing some coaching and technical assistance support on helping them think about their locally defined and state-mandated metrics and data for college and career readiness, and to really connect those to some sort of coherent system. And so what I'm now going to do is turn the mic over to my colleague Nidhi, who's going to walk you through a little bit of what we think might be helpful in terms of taking stock and developing regional systems.
Thank you, Valerie. As you know, shared data is a critical building block in creating, scaling, and sustaining a quality regional career pathway system. Therefore, in this session, we'll be sharing resources that can help you lay the groundwork for your regional cross-sector data work, such as taking stock of the different data systems, portals, dashboards that are in operation within your region, and the various data sharing agreements or memorandums of understanding that are currently in use. We understand that the existing data systems are disconnected with limited information across institutions and sectors about a student's pathway journey. Therefore, taking a more coordinated approach to collecting, maintaining, and sharing student data can help you address these cross-system issues. Also, we've heard that many of your regions are looking to create regional data sharing agreements, so we hope that this is sort of a first step towards doing that. I would now request you all to open the regional data summary document that Laura will be putting up in the chat box, and which I will also be sharing on screen. So yeah, just have a look at the link that Laura will be sharing on your chat box. If you click on that link, it will bring you to the regional data summary document, and this is what it looks like. I hope you all can see the screen that Valerie is sharing. So yeah, so this is the document. So as you will see, this document helps you gather relevant baseline data from high schools and community college partners to support your high-quality cross-sector career pathways work. The purpose of the document has been shared at the top, which is basically to understand what data systems, portals, and dashboards are currently being used, which can then sort of help you identify what are the potential gaps in data collection and infrastructure within your region, which in turn, can help inform some of the strategies for strengthening regional cross-sector data use and sharing. So if you go to section 1 on page 2, you will see that this focuses mainly around commonly used student information systems at the K-12 level. So you will notice there's ARIES, PowerSchool, Infinite Campus, etc. On section
One thing to note is that this section isn't comprehensive. Again, it just tries to give you an example of, here are some of the systems your K-12 partners might be using, and gives you an opportunity to note, high school 1, high school 2, high school 3, high school 4, which systems they're using. And then we also have this last column, the do staff have adequate training on it, because it is sort of, just because people are using it doesn't necessarily mean that they're using it sort of in the best sort of way or as effectively as possible. I think this issue of sort of how things are captured or calculated also can depend on what system you're using. And so again, this part of the document really, I think, can help you sort of, again, take stock of what your K-12 partners are using.
Great. If you turn to section 2 on page 3, similarly, we've sort of, again captured, what are the, K-12 data systems, portals, dashboards that are relevant to your career pathways work. And here again, we're hoping, you will be able to keep track of what the different K-12 institutions are using at the regional level, whether they report on CalPADS, on the Perkins, on the National Clearinghouse. So this is essentially a way for you to know what is in use at the K-12 level. Similarly, in section 3, on page 4, we've tried to capture again what are the commonly used, data management systems that are again relevant for career pathways work at the community college level. As mentioned, we're hoping that you are able to keep track of what is in use by each community college in your region. So, are they reporting on CAPMA, if they have dual enrollment courses, etc.
One thing that I'd also point out that can be helpful when you're thinking about your regional work is, if you have multiple partners who are, for example, subscribing to the National Student Clearinghouse, is there a way that maybe the region thinks about subscribing to the National Student Clearinghouse and potentially sort of lowering the cost burden on each individual institution? So not only do we think this sort of document can help you just sort of keep track, but it might help you think about some ways to effectively leverage your resources in the region.
Exactly. On section 4 on page 5, we basically capture some of the data sharing agreements and MOUs. As you may already be familiar, MOUs and contracts are a way of governing voluntary data sharing across institutions. And, as you sort of build your regional career pathways work, it's important to know what are the nature and type of MOUs and agreements that are in use within your region. So, some of the issues that are relevant for MOUs and data sharing agreements relate to dual enrollment. And within that, you will notice on the screen, we've mentioned the AB 288 agreement as well as non-AB 288 partnerships, articulation, transfer admission guarantees. As Valerie, has already noted in her overview of the California data landscape, MOUs and agreements are often needed for subscribing to various data systems and portals like CalPass Plus, CTE Launch Board, CAPMA, the California College Guidance Initiative. So in a way, what we're hoping this document does is to help you take stock of what is in use and in operation within your region. And moving forward, we would love to know how useful, is this document, does this make sense to you? How can it be made more helpful? And how are you and your other regional leagues taking stock of data in your region? So please feel free to type in, some of your comments on this document, and we've kept a substantial amount of time for Q&A, so we hope that we'll get a chance to address all your feedback and concerns. Now that we've talked about the different places where career and CTE pathways data can be accessed, a framework for thinking regionally, as well as how to take stock of the various systems, portals, and dashboards in use, the next thing that we thought might be helpful would be to discuss a regional data sharing agreement and MOU and what that might look like. So if you look at your chat box, Laura will be sharing the link to the next document that we've developed. It's called Tips for MOU DSA Development, and hopefully you can also see it on your screens at the moment. So I hope you all can see this document in front of us. So the purpose of this document is to help identify what are the key content areas and the information to consider when thinking about or formalizing cross-sector data sharing. So one of the ideas behind developing this document was to really help you start thinking about what data to share, with whom, and why. Pretty much, in short, to adopt a more systematic approach to your cross-sector data sharing. I'm sure you and your colleagues are already familiar with MOUs and data sharing agreements more than us. So while we know many agreements don't have this level, this granular level of information, say for example, who has access to data and for how long, As regional needs, we think it's important for you to take note of that type of information. Also, we encourage you to consult with your legal teams as to what information should or must be included in these data sharing agreements and MOUs, and what information is important to decide upon in other ways. So based on what we've shared, is there any feedback you have on this data sharing MOU and agreement document, and how do you think this could be helpful to your region and in what ways?